Welcome back to the Four Podmen, the wrestling podcast we bring you each and every week on the Dynamo Podcast Network. Head over to YouTube, smash that subscribe and bell notification button. Joining me tonight for a Crown Jewel review, Ian, the podfather of the network. How we doing, Ian?
Very well. Yeah, I'm usually well, but like when I talk about Saudi shows, not so much.
Also joining me tonight, my partner on the previews and the reviews, Darren. How you doing, Darren?
Hey lads, how we doing? All good?
Darren missed our spot on preview.
Absolutely. And Ted joining me from Retrotainment and Retrotainment Recast on the network. How we doing, Ted?
How you doing, lads? Not too bad, not too bad.
Good. I kind of, I'll throw an opening segue out there to start this. I kind of enjoyed it. I have to say. I kind of enjoyed it. Don't go anywhere. Come back here. Don't head off yet. I have to say, on the face of it, they put on a stellar show, don't they? It looks the business, the place. What you're thinking, Darren?
It was. Listen, I don't think it's difficult, but it was certainly the best Crown Jewel we've had.
Yeah, you know, by a long shot.
By a long shot. There was, we didn't have Botch Nation with Goldberg for a start. Anyway, did we? Like they found something he can do. He can do smoke and mirrors. He can do, no DQ, falls count anywhere in Riyadh. That works for him. He doesn't need to go into a wrestling match because at this stage he just can't wrestle anymore. But I think as a show and as a spectacle, you've got to say, it went off really, really well.
Yeah, when there's 100 million quid pumped into it by the Saudis and the girls are made to wrap up really nicely. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it's still better than the previous ones,
Oh, I mean, they're all shite. I mean, it's just another standard WWE show under bigger lights, really, isn't it?
And a lot more money.
And a hell of a lot more money.
But the same lack of direction and lack of fucking ideas within that absolute shithole of a company.
Yeah, I think it's billed as a one-off, one night kind of thing, with the exception of the kind of King of the Rings and stuff like that. There's a certain amount of build up to it, but there's also a certain amount of filler in there that are just like kind of one-off match type things. Ted, what was your overall before we get down into the matches?
As Darren said, this was the best Crown Jewel or whatever the other ones have been called pay-per-view, best Saudi show that they've put on. There's always obviously the slightly ethical dilemma of should I be watching it, but I pay for the network anyway. I wear fucking Nike, I wear all that shit. So like, listen, I can't be sitting here on me high horse.
Your ethics go out the window when you subscribe to WWE, really, isn't it?
It's not even just them, you mean. I buy brand name products from things, I can't be sitting here on me high horse saying about any of that. Like, it's they're all at it. All those big multinational companies are at it. I enjoyed the show overall, to be honest. As an actual wrestling show, I don't think there was really a bad match on it. As Darren said, the Goldberg, they figured out what they need to do with him. Just let him go out there and just kind of, be Goldberg. Forget about having a clinic or anything like that. Just let him go out there, hit a few spears, hit a jackhammer, fall around a little bit, and then win or lose, whatever. It doesn't matter. That'll get him through the day.
We'll get into that match in a bit because we'll run down through the matches. But I have an interesting idea on that match that I thought was really cool, that I really enjoyed. Let's kick off. I suppose we kicked off, Darren, with two men against two other men that we're really big fans of. The Usos obviously are just absolute gold when it comes to tag team wrestling. Versus the Hurt Business. I like that idea. I like Benjamin and Cedric Alexander. I think it's a nice little mix there. What was you thinking on that match?
Yeah, I thought it was a good match for the kickoff show, to be honest with you. Because sometimes you can end up with something really, really ropey, but I don't think Usos do ropey, do they? They only know one gear, and that's to the top.
In the ring, they don't anyway. Their personal lives is another question, but
they just in the ring, they just keep churning it out, don't they? Really, like they're the best tag team in the world. I don't think there's anyone that can argue with that. There's some great wrestlers in some of the other companies and stuff like that. But as far as tag team and cohesion and just bringing the total package to the table, the Usos are the bar right now.
I think them and FTR, are the two pound for pound best tag teams without a shadow of it. And I do think the Usos are a step above, personally.
they've just unbelievable chemistry with everyone they step in with, isn't it? And it's mad. Like even tonight, it was kind of weird watching them coming out trying to kind of play face, you know, that kind of way, because obviously the two boys were coming out as the Hurt Business, you know, but it was kind of like, yeah, you can kind of cheer for us, but we don't really care whether you do or not, kind of thing.
And I think that helps the whole thing, doesn't it? That they don't really give a fiddlers. You know, they're not there to be pandered at, to have guys going, oh, you know, you guys are great. And they're like, yeah, well, if we're not great, we don't give a fuck either way, because at the end of the night, we're walking out with the belts and we're getting paychecks. We're going to get into that truck and drive it after 8 beers. So who gives it? You know what I mean? Like, that's it.
Speaking of which, I need one after watching it. So
speaking of which,
the only problem I have with that match is the actual Hurt Business. I think, and this just goes back to ages ago when they actually split the Hurt Business. I think that just did more harm than good, because you split the two boys off. They did nothing. What did you bother splitting them off for? And then you were like, let's get them back in because it's a good storyline to get them back in. The actual match itself, grand, brilliant little match, but that's the only thing that hurt it. Like, bad booking months ago to split the Hurt Business up. They should have just left them together and been done with it.
Well, that's a lot of Ian's frustration with them.
Yeah, he's absolutely right with that.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. They were one of the hottest things in WWE when they decided to split them. You know, they were going big on Raw. You know, Bobby Lashley was looking absolutely super in the ring. You had MVP on the mic. You had the two little gremlins going around with. It looked really, really good. You know, and then all of a sudden, pop, they're gone. And then, like, it wasn't bad enough that they made a mistake of splitting them. Who decided we're going to throw them back in here? Like, that was an even bigger, you know, faux pas for me, I have to say. They'd have been better off just burying them rather than bring them back in to look like, oh yeah, we've just dug ourselves up out of a grave. You know what I mean? It's
get two new boys in.
Get two new boys, get two young, athletic kids. And maybe get them in and say, you know, oh yeah, we got rid of those other two bums and stuff like that, and play on a type of thing, rather than bring them back and being like, oh hey, we know you ditched us, but we're back, like as Sideshow Bob, and you know, it's nuts.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Hell in a Cell, Edge versus Seth Rollins. I thought both boys looked the absolute business. I think Edge looks absolute business, but I thought the red cage was really cool. In terms of this setting, in cage match, I know it's not the cage matches of old, of course, and like I think I think at times that's kind of the problem when people think of these Hell in a Cell matches and stuff like that. They think Foley and Undertaker and this is the benchmark and all that kind of thing. I think you can kind of enjoy a match like this if you see past those matches.
No, I think they set the stall out pretty quick with a lovely little spot where Rollins went straight in into the table. Listen, two great workers. Do you know what I mean? I thought they done great with the cage. They used it when they needed it. They used the spots when they needed it. Two great workers. Like I say, I'll repeat. They don't need any kind of, you know, 300-pound guy going through a cage, you know, breaking his back just for our entertainment, or going off the top of a cell into a, you know, that's not my kind of wrestling anyway. Even though I look back at it and go, geez, it's great, but you know, it wouldn't have been on my show, put it that way, and hence why my show wouldn't have made millions of dollars like Vince has done. But I don't even think Vince wanted it on his show either. But in terms of, I thought it was a really little intelligent cage match. Again, we're talking about two guys who know how to tell a story. They did it with their bodies at times. Do you know what I mean? You know, the high spots were in the right places at the right time. And I think in terms of modern kind of Hell in a Cell matches, it's up there with the best of them. Thought it was a great end to that trilogy as they promoted it. And yeah, it's about time now that, I mean, I think whatever kind of purgatory they have Seth Rollins in, I think it's about time to take him out of it and start letting him be himself again a little bit more, and being like a proper badass heel or badass babyface, because I think they showed in this match that's, you know, the character that he's portraying certainly doesn't fit the work that goes on within the ring. And I think that's something that we forget as wrestling fans, is that it should kind of mesh, you know what I mean? because he's a lot more badass bell to bell than he is outside of the bell. So, but yeah, no. To answer your question, yeah, I thought it was a great match, and I think it was probably match of the night. To be fair.
Yeah, he kind of comes across as a polished American psycho or something, doesn't he?
Yes.
Then when he gets into the ring, it's dirty and nasty. You see him like down for Edge's eye with the stick off the chair.
But it's not natural. Even that silly laugh that he does, haha, like it's forced. You know what I mean? It's not like if you're going for that American psycho character, be calm and collected. Then do you know what I mean? It just doesn't. Yeah. Again, it's just like there's something missing within that.
It's like he's calculated all the way to the ring, and then when he gets in the ring, it's a bit more sporadic.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, exactly.
Darren, what did you make of the positioning of the match on the card? They rolled it out very quick, didn't they?
They rolled it out very quick, which I was surprised with. I mean, for the main card, it opened up, and you were thinking, I was really caught off guard, I have to say. I would have expected maybe the likes of the tag match or something to kick us off, maybe even the Big E and Drew, something like that, because they've typically, when they've had two big title matches like that,
one at the start, one at the end, yeah,
exactly. So I wouldn't have been surprised to see Big E and Drew go out there first, but I do think it set a tone as well, and I think they positioned it cleverly, that they knew this is going to be our biggest match of the night from a wrestling point of view, from a storytelling point of view, so to speak. And if we go out and we put that best foot forward, let's see if everybody else can kind of toe the line and drag us through the whole show, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Rather than what they've done in the past, which has been peaks and troughs, up and down, giving you something cold and giving you something hot type of thing. I like the idea, I have to say. And I think, as Ian said, it's a super, super match. The two lads, they've nothing to prove to any of us. They're two absolute, magicians in that ring. They really, really are. And I wholeheartedly concur with the idea of doing something with the Rollins character. I personally, I'd like to see the face run. I really would. I know he's very good as a heel, but I just think the face run, there's so much that they could get behind him, the fans, and he would be an absolute merch megastar, wouldn't he?
I would dare say, Darren, you and me will be on the same thinking, and we'll get onto it later without giving that away. But a later match and a certain lad that we're going to talk about, and they're synonymous with each other when it comes to the Universal title. That have you done the switcheroo? Yeah. I think it's about time, and I think, yeah, I would agree with you. I think he would be he's a good-looking guy. You know what I mean? Very good-looking guy. Fucking so marketable. By the way, just before we move on, how fucking good does Edge look? Jesus Christ. He is just made of granite, isn't he?
And not only that, after coming back off that career-threatening injury and being out of the game for about 8 or 9
and then
years,
getting another year with the tricep, yeah.
And then coming back and producing some of his best work, which is staggering, really.
Yeah.
It's funny when you say, is some of his best work, and I think time lends itself to people like absorbing stuff. So I mean, even all those years he wasn't in the ring, he was absorbing the likes of what was going on, or he was watching old WWE matches and he was watching stuff and he was going, you know what? If I ever got a chance, this is what I do. You know what I mean? And everything he thought about and everything he'd worked towards, he was given that kind of, that the door opened and he was able to step through it. And all of a sudden you go, do you know what? This is my chance to kind of not right all those wrongs, but to just go and put myself forward as an absolute workhorse for matches and just make every match that I'm in. Like, he hasn't had a bad match since he come back. Like, his body work has been scarily good, might I add.
Similar to Shawn Michaels, isn't it?
Yeah.
But in a different path. I mean, Shawn had his own demons and stuff like that, and was just naturally gifted with that. Whereas Edge was like literally fucking Mr. Clean, went out and got himself, never really an issue with that lad, and just was chomping at the bit to come back. But anyway, sorry.
Yeah, no, I'd say from Ted's point of view, Ted, he's laying a legacy down on top of a legacy, really, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. He's one of the few that, comes back after a big injury and who's in, Edge must be nearly 50 now, is he?
No, I
not far
don't
off
think
it.
so. I think
He must be nearly.
47, is he?
Yeah,
He must
Well, I
be.
mean, yeah, he's close to
47,
it. Yeah.
48, yeah.
He's up there, you know. Like he's one of the few that's come back, and you know it's been worth coming back. Like a lot of people come back at that age, and it's like, you really shouldn't have. You've tarnished a bit of your legacy there. Not a problem with Edge here. He's come back, and it's just improved his legacy. I think the Hell in a Cell, the big red Hell in a Cell looked well here. I'm not a big fan of it in general. I think it looked really well at this show, though. I think it fit in at this show, but
Yeah.
it doesn't fit in at other shows.
Yeah.
I also like the fact that this is probably the first Hell in a Cell we've had that deserved to be a Hell in a Cell in a long time. The boys have had a fairly long-standing rivalry, even reaching back to when Edge was out and Rollins threatened to break his neck in that little Raw segment. You know, they've had stuff going on between them. So I understand them having a Hell in a Cell match. I think that worked really well. Big feud ender. Edge gets his win because I think Rollins won the last two, didn't he? Did Rollins win the first?
Edge won it. Edge won at SummerSlam.
Edge won at SummerSlam. All right, well, either way, this is kind of, you know, the blow off feud. Let Edge win it. Let him ride off into the sun with that happy victory against Rollins, and Rollins can pull it back somewhere else. You know, it's not like it's the end of Rollins or anything.
No, but you're right in what you say, Ted. You know, Hell in the Cell was the only place for this to go.
Yeah.
Like from time to time, we've had the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view where every second match on the card was Hell in a Cell, which devalues the whole thing. You know, but this was a legitimate end to a feud, a long-running feud, and I spoke with Niall about it on the preview, and I was really happy that they let it go this far. That they didn't just give us the first match or the second match and pull the plug. They slow played it because, you know, slow playing it gave us so much more than just that quick first hit of it. We were really able to kind of get our teeth into it, and that's something creatively that they haven't done enough for me. Stuff has been too turnaround, you know. It's very, very quick, and you know, we see each other on a Friday night in SmackDown, and in 2 weeks' time, it's all over and put to bed. And you're thinking that didn't even get started, you know, and that's too short-sighted from WWE's point of view, you know.
Yeah, and now it's ended. Like, you know, Rollins has nothing to be coming back with going, you know, you cheated or this, that, or the other, or I would have won this, that, or right. No, it's done now. You've ended the feud, and you can let the two boys go their separate ways. And if they need to meet up again 6-7 months down the line at the fucking Royal Rumble or something in the match, there's still something there that you can still click them together on. But you don't need to. Like, nobody's clamoring for them two to be together now at the next pay-per-view or anything. So it's a good way to end that feud, and either one winning would have been grand, really. It was nice to see Edge get it, but because he hasn't had a big feud-ending win yet since he's come back, so it was nice to see him get that. But if Rollins won, I don't think anyone would have complained either, would they?
No, I think it's important that they go off separately as well, because otherwise it devalues the cage match, really, you know.
Yeah.
Let's move on. Mansoor versus Mustafa Ali.
Let's just gloss over it. Let's just skip it to the next one.
What was the idea of rolling your man out?
He got a silver medal at the thing, but he only got the silver medal because he got disqualified for knocking his opponent out, which you're not meant to do in karate.
But what's he doing in this circle?
It was just, you know, that cheap pop of, you know, Saudi Arabia, here's someone who did really well at the Olympics for them. Get them out. It'll be a nice little pop for them. And the Saudi boys are paying for it anyway. That's all that is, you know?
Yeah.
And it was nice for the two boys, you know? Like, Mansoor was always going to be on the show somewhere, wasn't he? You know, he's on all of them.
Should have been selling fucking hot dogs.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, but he's been on all of them, you know, hometown boy and whatnot. They roll him out every time.
And I get it, like, we've had Jordan Devlin when you know, WWE came to town and stuff like that, so I do get it. But, you know, there's a big difference between rolling Jordan Devlin out in the O2 because he's a legitimate star, whereas rolling out Mansoor, like, the guy's an absolute, you know, he's shockingly bad. He's not ever going to go anything above a jobber in WWE, other than the fact they might roll him out once a year to please the fat boys sitting in the couches in the first 6 rows. Like, that's...
You know, Willies. Anyway,
what do you think he has a contract for?
Move to the next show.
Yeah.
RK Bro versus Styles and Omos. I think we called this on the preview that this was just going to be a title rematch that would just blend out as it did and stuff like that. I think that RKO off the top rope, I think, is beginning to be the norm now rather than the shock value, isn't it?
It's just it's gotten very. It's another. I'll take this one. Like it's the same. Another one of my favorites. You know, you've got a lad who's still quite clearly in his prime. You know, much younger than Edge. That they're just he's just part of the furniture here. So we'll do. You know, he'll be happy to take his paycheck. Well, he's happy to take his paycheck because he'll do whatever you want him to do. And I'm sure he's just fed up with the system, and he's just happy to keep the money fucking rolling in. Another. I mean, I don't. The RK Bro thing. It's fun for a while. Yeah, I get it. I'm fucking over it personally. Just personally speaking, I'm over it. Like Randy Orton is so much more than that. I mean, he is on his day. He's better than anyone in that company, and more legit than anyone in that company. From your Lashleys to your fucking Drews to your Big E's to the other frizzy haired fucker.
He's wrestling royalty.
He really is, like, and I think it's just another example of this company not knowing what they're doing, basically.
I have to say, I did pop for Riddle on the camel.
Yeah,
I thought it was funny. It was
hilarious. I did find it funny.
If it was anyone else other than Riddle, I probably don't think I would have found it that funny. But the fact that it's Riddle, it worked so well for that guy.
It was funny because it was funny because you would believe that he was possibly just outside smoking a joint and he found a camel and he was probably talking to the camel, and the camel actually agreed that he'd bring him in to the show.
I was convinced he was going to take a bump off the back of the camel at one stage. It was just like
looked like it, all right, didn't it?
Yeah. It was,
but no, it's just again, it's just something I'm over. And also, I mentioned Orton there, and another lad that they're just doing absolutely nothing with, AJ Styles. Like, I mean, was really super over as a champion, which none of us would have envisaged back in the day. And when he first came into the company, and just you'll do over there. I just don't know.
I suppose with Orton, his role in the company now, as much as we revere him and how good he's doing, and he is wrestling royalties, no doubt about it, but he's probably in that vein now of, he's gonna pair up with people, then he's gonna turn somewhere down the line and kind of legitimize them into the roster some way and something like that, isn't it? I mean, do you see Riddle coming out of this at the back end of this more legitimized?
Yeah,
but for a little while. How can you say, like, there is no long-term planning within this company? No. So there is none. So it's listen, it's the idea of what you say on paper, Niall, is great, but the reality of it is no. He'll be legitimized for a little bit, and he'll get a cup of coffee in the big time, and then it'll be back. Do you know what I mean? To square one. Go ahead, Darren.
Because the biggest problem is the camel is very similar to Vince, and he'll get the fucking hump with you pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden your big star is buried. Like we've seen him create so many big stars, but fail to follow through and really push them to where they should be. Like how Kevin Owens is where he is just deplorable.
It's the same with AJ Styles. Like, people need to realize that Vince McMahon, like, it's all well and good them doing the dark side of the rings on Ric Flair and all these other bad lads. The darkest side of the ring is the head of that company. Do you know what I mean? The lad is a sociopath. Like, he does not have human empathy or feelings with someone. He'll love you for a day, and then he'll just drop you as soon as he's just. He doesn't know what he's doing. I mean, what age is he now, Darren?
About 712.
Right, 712 on the bleeding Richter scale of fucking Freemasonry, probably. But the thing about it is, he's more money than sense. Like, he literally doesn't know what he's doing with some of these lads. So no, I don't hold high hopes for poor old.
I lost a massive amount of respect for him. When I don't know if you guys remember seeing the behind the scenes stuff from the WrestleMania where Jericho and Owens wrestled.
Yes.
And they walked back from the ring and got to Gorilla, and Vince kind of chewed him out a little bit and was like, "That's not what I wanted." And you were like, that was a good match. Like, what did you not love about that? Like, what? There's two guys going out and putting their bodies on the line for you and your company, and trying to, trying to put the product into a good place, and you just walk back and disrespect them like that. I just thought, Jesus, like, you can be a genius, and people can say, like, he's the godfather of wrestling, and he's the innovator, and he's this and he's that, but when you don't have any respect for the guys that are going out and putting their bodies and their lives on the line for you and your company so you can make millions and billions and millions, like that says an awful lot about the guy, I have to be honest.
I think what we're seeing, and Riddle is a good example that Niall brought up, I think what we're really seeing here now is what Vince is when he just disregards all of the advice that comes to him, but when he's got too many people around him. When we had the Monday Night Raws and the pay-per-views being written around the pool with 3 or 4 lads, that was when the company was at its best. That's when legit stars were made. You know what I mean? The Michaels and the Bretts and whoever else, the Austins and all those guys that came along. We're now seeing way too many cooks in the kitchen, and I don't think Vince's brain can fathom what direction it's going. I mean, we're going to get onto a match here pretty soon, like about the whole Black History Month and all that stuff, and trying to have the PR thing, and it's I just find it all very weird. Basically.
And don't forget, there's an awful lot of the cooks in this kitchen that shouldn't be anywhere near it.
No, Z-list Hollywood writers, failed Z-list,
and look at the girl that who was in there 6 weeks. Or she was in there 6 weeks even, and they shipped her back.
She wasn't. She was in a day. And she was caught basically slagging the business.
But bluffing, because like yourself, we're wrestling fans. We know wrestling. Like I'll be 37 this year. I spent 32 years of my life watching pay-per-views, watching weekly shows, right? Yeah. And we live and we breathe it. This girl was writing soap operas and decided to step in and she was going to be a writer for something that she knew nothing about. But the absolute really scary thing was somebody's willing to give her a go.
Yeah.
Somebody was going to give her airtime and say, do you know what? Let's see what your ideas are. Like, that's scary.
I think the problem is when you sign a deal like the Peacock deal and stuff like that, and you get very comfortable in the cash because it's a given now. You don't feel like you have to go out and earn it. And I think when you start that stone rolling down that side of the mountain, it's very, very hard to stop it, isn't it? It's very hard to change it and stop it, because you've literally signed over, excuse the pun, but you've signed over the crown jewels to someone else whose expectation of what you're trying to produce is very different. And now you have to row in with that, whether you like it or not, or whether it's him pushing it or he's just happy that whoever's pushing it is where the checks come from. But the revenue stream has totally changed now. I don't know whether they care about ratings anymore. I don't think ratings in their life is a thing anymore. I think what happens is it's a given now that they're going to earn truckloads of cash.
Niall, this is all about, we've said it before, this is all about the inevitable sale, which it will be. I've said it for a long, long time. And look, I'll fight people about it. I don't mean physically, but I'll fight people in an argument or a debate setting. That this is quite clear. Vince is not going to just hand that over to anybody. It's like that dad that's like, you little bastard children work the way I fucking had to work. You know what I mean? And this is what he has. It's like this chip on the shoulder that he has, because we all know Vince is that alpha male. And it's not just a TV character. It's obviously in there as well. And I think it's all due to getting as much commercialization on this company. And Darren, you're big into business, and Niall, you run your own business. You know the writing's on the wall when you see it, isn't it? It's basically there when you've got the other can basically saying, "Well, we're not for sale, but we'll have a conversation." You know what I mean? Coming out publicly saying that. Then
they have a way of controlling the stock exchange and manipulating the stock price.
Absolutely, my friend. Absolutely, and they know what's happening on the other side, and the other side is only going to get stronger when you look at.
And the thing about it as well, if we were sitting in that seat, we may have a similar view, even though we're wrestling fans. But if you're looking at it purely from the business side of it as opposed to the wrestling side of it, it's a different viewpoint.
Well, then what are you in it for then? If you don't love it for what got you to the dance,
I suppose
then it's time to sell, isn't it?
But I suppose what you have to do is in order to protect your legacy and stuff like that, even if you want out, there's a certain way of going out, even though, like, if you're clever enough to it, you can kind of see through it a little bit.
Oh no, I agree.
You know?
But Niall, you tell me, in the last 5 to 10 years, he's actually done the opposite in protecting his legacy. He's actually a laughing stock now. Even the smart marks are going, Vince doesn't have a clue. This is an old man that doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah.
Like, so it's only like, that's a fact. That like, that's not up for debate. He is literally now considered the old man that doesn't know what he's doing anymore.
The guys that are now discussing wrestling are talking about him like he's their crazy Uncle Ned locked up in some fucking home on a Sunday afternoon, and he's knitting a blanket for Happy Gilmore. You know, hey, how you doing? That's the way he's seeing them.
Look what he's done because of what he's done to their own. Like, say Ted, for example. Ted, you're a big. I know you're not much younger than us, but you are younger. Like NXT, especially you being an indie fan. NXT would have been like one of the things that you would have enjoyed the most on the WWE product, and most wrestling fans would have, to be fair, including myself. Look what they done with that. It's not going to be dark anymore. We're going to get Triple H out of there. We're going to just make it all the flower, the colors of the rainbow. What? Oh yeah, and we're going to take Halloween Havoc this month, and we're going to make it just fucking nothing. It's like, what are you doing? Like, what are you actually doing? You know,
yeah, there's a lack of legacy there advising them, really, isn't there? And the problem is, even if it was there, even if you still had a Briscoe and a Patterson and someone like that to go, nah, that's nothing to do. I think, as you said, because he's at that stage now as the crazy Uncle Ned or whatever it is, he'd still probably just go ahead anyway.
His ego has done that to himself. He's done that to himself. Like, he used to need people like the Jim Cornettes and the Briscoes and the Pritchard. Well, I mean, Pritchard, I don't want to put Pritchard in that sentence because he's quite clearly the epitome of just brown nose. Do you know what I mean? Always was, always will be. But back to I didn't think much of that match, and I'm sorry, Niall, you asked me a good question about about poor Riddle, and that's what I think will happen to Riddle. I think whatever Roby gets from this whole scenario, it will be a thing for a while, and then it won't be a thing anymore, basically. Unfortunately.
Let's move on to Queen's Crown tournament. Dewdrop versus Zelina Vega. Ted?
Yeah, I was happy enough with that match, to be honest. It was more than I expected coming in from it to be. Like, I didn't think there was going to be much in this. Definitely didn't see these two ever getting to the final of it, if I'm completely honest. I think this is probably what Zelina was promised when she re-signed for the company. I think she was promised certain things and didn't get them. They did her dirty around 9/11 because she did a lot of PR work for them, and she was meant to wrestle on the
politicking.
She was meant to wrestle on the SmackDown in New York, and you know, she's been very vocal about the fact that her dad died at 9/11. He was a firefighter and stuff like that, and first responder and all that. She's very vocal. She went out and did a lot of PR work for them, and then her match got bumped, and she'd bought special gear and everything for it. And I think this is a little bit of a thank you back to her. I think she deserves it, to be honest. I don't think she doesn't really get a whole lot of time in the ring. I thought she was a fantastic manager when they had her the first time round. And they dropped the ball with her there.
Yeah.
Dewdrop is only relatively new into it, so she can bounce back from this loss. Like, getting to the finals when you've only been in the company, considering they pretend that NXT UK doesn't exist.
It's not nice to say the fat chick can bounce back to it. That's not cool, buddy.
But you know, like, they pretend NXT UK doesn't exist. So what she did there for 2 years doesn't count. So she's only in the company, 6 weeks or whatever it is now. So she'll be fine. And like, I don't know if you boys have seen her. I think Darren's seen her on the Independents. Like, she can go. Like, she'll be fine.
I've definitely seen her on the Independents.
Once they let her go, she'll be a star. So
she will. The one thing I would worry about is next week on Raw, when she's now called Drop. Because Vince doesn't like first names anymore. And now we've got Bearcat Lee and Drop, he's
not like Simon Rochford tried to be Vince McMahon over here in IWW back in the day. I need double barrel names, and you're like, you You two
You really
deserve
don't.
a room together. Do you know what I mean? And I deserve to lock it.
You're going out tonight. You're going to be Johnny Wishbone.
Yeah, Danger Doyle. I'm just gonna say, Niall knows what I'm talking about there.
What about Keego? Where's Keego?
Listen, Keego will tell you all about Danger Doyle. I was the Dynamo once, and then I was told to be Danger Doyle, and I decided to walk out on the show with a T-shirt saying Dynamo. Yeah. DD actually worked out. Danger Doyle, Dynamo's doesn't. That's all I'm saying.
Who knew?
Absolutely.
Who knew?
Yeah.
Thanks, Simon.
Let's move on then. False count anywhere. See, I told you you'd come on and we cheer you up through this. I know you found it hard, but we cheer you up. We'll bring you along.
It's only because of your gentlemanly fucking conduct towards me at this moment in time.
False count anywhere match. Bobby Lashley versus Goldberg. I have to say, I wanted to touch on this now. I really enjoyed this one.
I'm sure you did.
I was expecting this.
Me and Darren didn't.
I was expecting this.
Oh, we did.
I was expecting this to end at the jackhammer, and I got 5 more minutes, and I couldn't believe it. So, but yeah, I thought it was just two absolute beasts knocking lumps over each other. I loved Lashley at the start where he pulled the chain out and wrapped it around his hand. I thought that was really cool. And he split Goldberg at the top of the head with it as well. I thought was really cool as well. Darren?
Yeah, I enjoyed it way more than I thought I was gonna.
Yeah.
But we kind of called this on the pre-show, and we said, you know, Goldberg has his limitations. Let's not go and try him. He's not going to have a 60-minute Iron Man match with Shawn Michaels, is he? So let's put all the smoke and mirrors out there. Let's let him use them. Let's let him jump off the stage and spear him through a table, and you know, and sell it like that, because you can sell him as a badass. He's an easy sell as a badass. As soon as that music hits, everybody's like, "Oh my God, it's Goldberg," you know. So, and they got what they needed to get out of the match, you know.
How much was the crowd into it? The crowd
absolutely.
Well into it.
He's a big star, man. He really is. You know, that streak, the legacy of that streak lives on.
He's one of the biggest.
You know?
He's one of the biggest stars, and I'll tell you one thing. Like, hats off to WCW still and Eric Bischoff for the handling of him. It's one of the best things they've ever done.
Yeah.
For him to still have that, because like WWE didn't make him. In
Not
fact,
at all.
quite the opposite. Quite the opposite. That WWE run was just, it was incredible.
The entrance is still cool as well, isn't it?
His music is just.
It's the music, isn't it? The music is just. The music makes it, and that sparks, and then him coming out like a fucking. Like he's having a epileptic fit, like, you know, it's perfect.
When he's trying to open the door and the door wouldn't open first, and then he opens the door and walks out. But when he walks out, like, he's twice the size of all the security lads. He's a monster. Like, you know?
They do a good show of getting him out to the ring, and Darren's right. This man has limitations. You know, he's definitely. He's probably pushing 60 now at this point. I don't know what age he is, but he looks it anyway.
He's about 52. I think he only turned 52 the other week.
Well, he looks older than that when he's in the ring, like not physically, but like his, you know.
I was gonna say, if you had to say about how that man looks when you're 50, I want to see a picture.
No, but I mean, do you know, like when
he's
moving
cumbersome,
around,
isn't he?
like he's moving around and he just doesn't look great. And I mean, he never looked great when he was walking around in the ring. He was always a get in, jackhammer, spear, jackhammer, get the fuck out of the ring, boy.
But he never really had like I've always said, he never had any business being in a ring, purely because his own ego fucking allowed himself to be, you know, to not listen to anybody, and that was also fault of Eric Bischoff. But I think when he got to WWE, and especially in recent times, what Ted, you'll probably agree that he's kind of taken a bit of a step back and learned his limitations. You know, I mean, it's about 20 years in the making that he's fucking finally listened, but he's kind of listened a little bit and kind of trusted in people that know what they're doing.
He talked about coming back initially to kind of, you know, let the missus and the young lads see what he was able to do type thing, and he is setting a little bit of a better example for the young fella than let's say if he roll back to 20 years and watch this WCW streak. You know, he's trying to put his best foot forward. He's trying to do stuff better.
And that's admirable, to be fair.
Absolutely. Absolutely, yeah, and you know, having limitations is one thing, but knowing them is another thing.
Well, the Warrior would have liked to do that. I'm sure. I've always thought of Bill Goldberg and the Ultimate Warrior in a similar category. I think Bill Goldberg was a hell of a lot better than the Warrior, even though, I mean, in ring wise, like he's definitely had better matches and more consistently better matches. I just done a show that I'll drop tomorrow on Halloween Havoc, like, and you look at the DDP match that he had, which I still think is his best match of all time. And DDP is, to be fair, but I think you're right. I think he got to a certain level in WCW when he thought he was the big cheese, and that can happen because it's such an ego-driven business. I know myself, even on a smaller scale, your ego goes off the fucking Richter scale. You know what I mean? Just because people were there to see you, and you're like, oh Jesus, people want to talk to you because they saw you, and it's just a natural human thing. It's not really anyone's fault. It's just one of those kind of, I suppose, auras or chemical kind of chemistry, kind of drug type, whatever fucking kind of what hippie version you want to say of people kind of having connections and kind of coming through. And basically what I'm trying to say is that if you think about it, someone like Goldberg on the scale that he was, like, and the superstar that he was, he really didn't have anyone to kind of grab him by the fucking neck and say, right, listen, I'm going to teach you how to work. Let's do this. And when the one man that did try and do it, he fucking ended his career in Brett, you know what I mean? And it was kind of unfortunate that it happened that way. And then you saw what he was like in WWE then, like he hated Triple H. He wanted to fight everyone. He broke his fucking hand in a stupid segment on a limousine. You were just like, is this man actually brain dead? So yeah, the comparisons with him and the Warrior are absolutely so in line with each other that it's scary. But the good thing about it is Goldberg is now still with us. Unfortunately, the Warrior isn't, and he gets to kind of, I suppose, rectify some of those mishaps, I suppose, that he may feel happened in his past.
Yeah, even the way, like, I mean, I suppose if we think about how he exited the business that time after WrestleMania 20, that would leave a bad taste, and that would be something you'd want to come back and rectify for the right reasons, especially if you're leaving a legacy for your family to look at. You don't want your family thinking, well, that's how you walked out, two guys just taking the piss in Madison Square Garden. You know what I mean? That's your end game, you know?
Yeah, you're talking two.
Well, especially when you got Austin as the referee, probably saying to you, "Fuck you two guys." Do you know what I mean? That's what Austin was basically said in his podcast. He was like, "I was looking at these two guys saying, fuck you. This is my business." Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you had, but like he came out in this, and I thought, like Darren said it as well. Like he has the limitations, and it looks like both he and WWE have learned. Like, listen, don't be going out there asking for much. Just send them out there, hit a couple of big moves, let them take a couple of big moves. The only real issue I had with this match was, I know what Darren was saying, he liked the chain at the start. I would like that, but that chain sort of thing, that's a spot that's used as the end of the match a lot of the times. So it's a bit weird to see it used at the start of the match and have no effect. And then the jump off the second rope with the chair around someone's leg, we've seen people put out for 6 or 8 months with that, and I know it's storyline driven and they're actually injured, but they use that as an ender, and he's just getting up out of it, hitting spears and hitting jackhammers, and he's limping around a little bit. Like, certain spots like that I think should be protected, like jumping off the second rope onto a chair onto some lad's leg. That's a leg breaker. Just leave that alone. Don't be sticking.
The only thing that should have been protected in this match was the fucking opponent, but quite clearly, Darren liked this one earlier. Quite clearly, Black History Month has ended. But we learned very quickly later on that it hasn't.
No, but
only for certain people.
But listen, Goldberg was always winning this. He's come back, and ever since he came back, he's always come out kind of on the right end of any feud he's been in, and he got
smelling
beaten
of
by
roses.
Lashley. Yeah, like he got beaten by Lashley, and that was the right call at the time when Lashley was champion. And this was just kind of, here's your win back, Goldberg. Thanks very much for that.
It's very weird.
Off
isn't
you
it?
go.
It's the
And
only
it was
one outside of WWE that Vince has ever really paid that much.
it's because he can come in and demand the money. Like, you know, he's a star. Like, you can see it when he goes over to these shows, the way the crowd react. The man's a star. So Vince will fucking take that if it's going to make him all this money. He's happy to take and give this lad the respect if it's making him all that cash. And that's what this was. This was just giving the man back. There's your win back. And, you know, Lashley beat up your son, so everyone got a good laugh out of that.
I think there's a part of Vince that thinks the longer he can keep Goldberg in WWE, the more people will remember him for WWE.
Yeah,
but as I think Ian said earlier, you know, WWE didn't create Goldberg. WCW and Eric Bischoff did, you know. But I do think from Vince's point of view, he would like to be able to say, you know, Bill Goldberg, WWE Hall of Famer. You know, and that'll kind of settle it for Vince. He won't want to have that taste in his mouth where people go, "Oh yeah, you know, Goldberg, best WCW champion of all time," type thing. You know, that'd kill Vince inside, wouldn't it?
Yeah, 100%. Well, that's what he tried to do with Sting, but Sting was obviously too intelligent to fall for it. So, yeah, we move on.
King of the Ring tournament: Finn Balor versus Xavier Woods.
Here we fucking go.
Xavier
Glass over. Just fucking skip it.
We can't. Ian,
what do you want from me?
give us your thoughts.
The three of us head off for 20 minutes. Will we let him go off on this one? Will we?
It's quite clear. It's quite clear.
And socially distance meet at the bar.
Yeah. You know what? It'd be a good idea. If
socially distancing is about 20 meters, not 2.
I reckon after watching that match, I'd have socially fucking found some cunt and just bounced his head off a table. Sorry about that. It wasn't your fault, but I'm just after seeing something horrible.
Talk to me about, is your issue with the match, or is your issue with the result, or is your issue with, you know, we've had Turnbuckle Gate that, like, it never happened.
Well, that's it.
Yeah.
There you go. This is what we come to. This is what we come to.
So this is where I'm coming from. Like, because if you look at the match as a match, is there an issue within the match and with Xavier?
It was just a WWE Raw match. I mean, look, you've got Xavier Bleeding Woods, who isn't even in the same ballpark of conversation. I mean, that lad's an out and out hack. Like, you know what I mean? Shout out to the Knight family. I don't know. I mean, this lad isn't like, he's a legit hack. He's got no fucking talent other than honking a fucking horn. And like, yeah, he can move within the ring, but he's a little acrobat. He's fucking shite. Sorry to say, but it's a fact. Kofi and Xavier, or Kofi and Big E, I can get behind. This lad has nothing that grabs me. And this is a lad that they're trying to build up. And they feed Finn Balor to him, who literally 2 months ago, well, a month ago, not even a month ago, was the demon wrestling for the title and was just about to win the title from the fucking head of the table. Like, if this isn't a cluster, I do not know. And I tell you, I hope that my pal, if you're listening, Fergal, get the fuck out of there, because you get paid twice as much and work twice as less over in the other crowd, and they'll actually appreciate you. I hope he just says, fuck you, see you later. Because that's going to be him and Roman Reigns, and then Sami Zayn are going to be the last pieces of that indie crowd that they brought in, that they done absolutely nothing with. Nothing of note. It's shocking. It's shocking. Xavier Woods. Do you hear the little pipsqueak voice in him at the end? I'm going to be running things now as well. Sounds like a little rat. Like, it may as well have been that little mouse from Ratatouille, that movie in Disney. In fact, he sounded more demonic than that little weasel. I just thought it was shocking. Shocking booking. It's quite clear that Vince has nothing of respect with Balor other than that demon gimmick just to make a few quid for him. So it's quite clear that they don't value him in any way, shape, or form.
Ted, come in here, because you gave me a very good breakdown on this last night when we were talking off air, if you like. You made some really good points in terms of why you're seeing it going towards Xavier Woods. Now, it might not be something that we
Remember,
agree with.
Ted, Fergal's listening.
Yeah, well, I don't think Fergal would want to be walking around with a crown on his head anyway. But that's neither here nor there. I'm sure he'd much prefer the WWE Championship.
I also, even though I got that rant out of the way, you see me smiling now. I also have a little theory later, but let Ted go.
Go ahead, Ted.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I don't think Woods is a hack. I definitely not. I'm not on the same boat on Ian as that one. I don't think the lad's a hack. I think he can go in the ring. I think he's got a lot of charisma there.
He's all right, yeah.
I think he's got a lot of charisma behind him.
Yeah, he's the next Hogan for sure. Give him the belt.
I'm not saying he's the next world champion, but like I don't think he's a hack by any means.
He's an out-and-out hack.
Not for me, he's not. And there was the second I seen him in this, I was happy to say he was going to win this whole tournament. Didn't matter who he came up against. I knew he was winning this. This is a lad who's been talking for years now in his career. How the one thing he always wanted to win was the King of the Ring.
Was an argument.
Sorry?
Was an argument.
Yeah.
No, he's always talked about how King of the Ring was always his favorite tournament, and it's the one he always wanted to win.
Bless him. Sorry.
And the thing is that like people might not realize it, but Up Down Down, which is his gaming channel, WWE, he basically gave that over to WWE, and it's now their property, and he works alongside with them. It's got 2 million subscribers on YouTube. That was a market they were trying to break into that YouTube market, and he did fucking wonders for them for getting that in. He has a very big pop culture reference and stuff, and he has a lot of reach outside of WWE into that gaming community and stuff like that. And this was just a thank you to him. That is what this is. No doubt.
Now we're getting to it. Now we know why Ted loves him. He's a gamer.
It's not. It's nothing to do with whether loving him or not. Like the fact is that's what Vince gave it to him for. He was like, this is a thank you for your work on something else that I had no fucking Scooby about.
He didn't do that earlier. Sorry, didn't someone say earlier that Zelina's father died in 9/11?
Yeah, I said that, yeah.
And they dropped her from the fucking show. But yet they put out a 9/11 documentary. It's pity they couldn't have afforded her the same fucking courtesy, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm not saying he's a good guy, but like I did say that's what happened. Like they dropped the ball on her, had her do all the media work for that 9/11 documentary, and then cut her match from SmackDown. But I think this is why this was going to Woods. The second I see him in this tournament, I knew this has been handed to him as a thank you, and it didn't matter who he came up against. I wasn't shocked by this result at all.
Even Brock Lesnar?
Brock Lesnar wasn't in the tournament, so.
No, but I'm saying you said it didn't matter who he would have come up against.
Yeah, because the likes of Brock Lesnar and all aren't going to be King of the Ring. You know, it was always going to be.
Yeah, but then why put the lad that just went up and nearly beat your main guy that you're marketing in the King of the Ring?
Because they wanted him to beat somebody of note.
Yeah, but there's plenty of lads with notoriety.
They could have let him beat Kevin Owens because he's on the Dean Ambrose leaving tour at the minute, isn't he?
Yeah, but Owens refuses to go to these shows, so they wouldn't have had Owens for this pay-per-view, and they knew that.
They could have let him beat him in the.
We're talking about pro wrestling here. Forget about gaming. We're talking about pro wrestling here. Now, by the same argument that you've come up with an argument against how that hurts Balor then.
What do you mean how it hurts Balor?
What do you mean?
What do you mean come up with an argument?
The question is quite simple. How does that help Balor losing clean?
It doesn't.
Yeah. So they basically built up a lad just to drop a fucking, not even a strap. They basically left Balor with nothing.
Don't say that word, Ian. Vince is listening.
Yeah.
It's a universal championship, or it's a championship. It's not a strap or a belt. Those words are banned around here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, as Brett said when he got screwed that time, you left me like a slug in the ring and left me with nothing. So
I'm gonna throw my tuppence word in here.
Do
if you don't mind and settle this argument. Xavier Woods, you're a fucking hack. You're not a hack. You're a fucking hack, right? He'd no business being in the King of the Ring final, and he had absolutely no business beating a wrestler of the caliber of Finn Balor. Like
best wrestler on the planet. Fact.
That's and listen, and we have to be honest here. Like, I know anyone that listens to this might go, yeah, these are 4 Irish lads, you know, they're giving it all Finn Balor. Like, Finn Balor is one of the absolute premier wrestlers in world wrestling. Whether it's
pound for pound, the best.
Right, whether it's AEW, whether it's New Japan, you know, no matter where, he is one of the absolute best in the world. And there's no way he should be losing clean to Xavier Woods.
With an elbow drop.
With an elbow, like, come on, man, will you? Jesus Christ. That is WWE's creative team at their very worst. Like, you know, you talk about Riddle being outside on the Ganji. Like, what must the lads have been smoking when they decided this was going to be the end of the tournament? Like, Jesus Christ, man.
So,
like, I hear everything Ted said is fair enough, right? If you want to build a lad up because he's after bringing money into your company and he's an asset because he's after bringing X amount of people over, that's fine. But like you said, Darren, there's plenty of other people that you could have fed him. But bringing Balor into it?
I really wanted to repay him. You've still got Paige on the books. Get her in for a couple of days a week and let him have another go at the Bleeding Championship. But don't be feeding him Balor, like. That's.
I suppose if you're trying to raise his profile and you're trying to get him to step out of, when we talk about these guys, a lot of people are in favor of the New Day being together all the time. I think they need to step out of each other more. And I think if you're trying to legitimize him in terms of stepping him out of that situation, and he's going to maybe go off now and be the king of the ring, the king and all this type of thing, you have to have a certain profile of guy in there, don't you, for people to...
So what is it? Is your Balor your Mr. Perfect then? That's just the guy like that fucking... I mean, Niall, don't forget, you can't turn the tides either now. I'm watching you trying to be all diplomatic.
No, I'm not.
You were the one that promised us that Balor was going to get the belt within this 2 weeks and all that as well. I was watching your Crown Jewel preview. I was like, come on, Niall, now stick by it. You said that he was going to turn.
No, I am. I'm not justifying Xavier Woods in any way. And what I'm saying is it was going to lead into another question where I was going to ask you now, what now for Balor? And I don't mean in terms of 6 or 12 months time heading off to AEW. I mean in terms of that Raw circle.
I think he just needs to wind down his contract as quick as he possibly can and get the fuck out. Because I mean, if you're talking about, when you hear the likes of Kenny Omega being the best wrestler on the planet, or Daniel Bryan being the best wrestler on the planet, and now you got CM Punk back, surely you're Balor and you're sitting there going, I want to wrestle these guys without the filters that these idiots are going to put on me. Do you know what I mean? Especially at the age he is now, where he's still at the age where he can go. Do you know what I mean?
Controversial as I may be saying this, Kenny Omega, another fucking hack, by the way, another hack.
No, but what you're saying there, Darren, that's what I'm saying. I think pound for pound, Balor is twice the wrestler, bell to bell, that any of those guys
absolutely are. And I think when we say that, it's not because we're Irish or it's not.
It's not.
I think a stranger who's a pro wrestling fan could turn around and say that, and it's very legit in the conversation.
Yeah,
so but I would also in the same breath say the same about Randy Orton and AJ Styles, as we mentioned.
I think those three. And
they're not. So it's not that we're just beating the.
No, they are the three. They are the three. I've always said it. Balor, Styles, and Orton. You and me sing from the same hymn sheet, Darren. Absolutely. I mean, the only thing that I'm thinking that they could, I mean, and listen, again, we tried to think what WWE might do with Balor and the potential they had, but these Z-list writers have absolutely nothing up their arse but their thumbs. Do you know what I mean? They have fucking no credibility in writing ever, because they've never actually achieved that, other than, as Darren said earlier, blagging their way into a job because they happen to be around somebody. Probably Kevin Spacey when they were fucking, 15. But the point I'm making is it's very, very, very simple what's going on here. There is no plan. There is no plan for any of these lads other than the top. They have a plan of maybe 2 months. I mean, Bruce Pritchard, that fucking idiot should hang his fucking treble chin and shame as well. I mean, he has absolutely no credibility in my book. Nothing. They fired Eric Bischoff from a job within 2 weeks because he wouldn't comply with their direction, because he wanted to go somewhere. Oh, guess what? Bischoff actually achieved something on his own. Wouldn't you know? Who won the pony, as fucking Mr. Jim Cornette likes to say. He got fired because Vince likes these yes men. Oh, yes, Vince, no problem. You know what I mean? It's basically I'll tell you how it's going to go with Finn Balor. Unless they turn him heel, this was my prediction earlier when I said with if they'd done the switcheroo with Seth Rollins, and they were to turn someone like a Seth Rollins face, they could get Balor getting angry now about being fed to these people, and they could get the Prince out, and they could get the Bullet Club version of the Prince out. I think that would suffice and would make up for all the mishaps. And he could then be your CM Punk type character where he's fucking has his pipe bomb moment or something.
And I think that's a segue into Big E retaining tonight. And maybe he comes out and maybe he calls out Xavier Woods, you know, when he says, you know, I want to congratulate Xavier or something like this for what he did. And then he low blows him and then he absolutely upends him. And then he up, down, downs him and right, left, squares and circles him, right? And then we end up where, you know, Big E has to come out and save his little buddy. And then Balor's like, you know what, you can't live with me, kid. And he takes the title and we get that cocky heel. And again, if that's what happens, that will be some of the best writing WWE have had in fucking centuries. But it'll be B, an absolute shock and fluke if it does happen. Because they've got a track record for fucking stuff up. So why now they're going to do something that would make sense?
And shout out to Kev, who works there as an Irishman. If you want, bring two fucking lads here who actually just brought the idea to the table and would know how to fucking write it in a 6-month fucking storyline, and it might work for you, instead of signing these idiots to fucking multi, you know, $1,000 contract a year. Like, I mean, it's I don't know. Yeah, that's my take on it. It's just shocking. I'm over it now.
I suppose the upside is there's plenty of opponents there for him on Raw that he could have real good programs with if the right.
Well, should we seen it before? He'll come out and do the little Fonzie and go.
He might, but like, you know, like I know why Woods was given the win, and like as I said, it's because of what he brought in, and whether people like it or not, that's what Vince was going to do. He was going to, you know, someone brought me in all this money, I'm going to give them a little pat on the back. There you go.
How much money has Balor? Did you realize there 2 years ago that Balor actually was up there with John Cena as the highest selling T-shirt guy? Yeah.
Yeah, I did. Yeah. And
when's he gonna get his rub?
I don't know, but like this
exactly.
The way,
so up, down doesn't mean jack shit to me.
It doesn't matter if it means something to you, me, anybody else. It matters if it means something to Vince, and it clearly does. So that's why he gave Xavier the rub.
And that's why we're making the argument. We're saying that Devitt needs to be gone from that shithole of a company.
Yeah, but you were asking me earlier to justify how this helps Balor, and I said it doesn't. Like I'm in no way saying that Woods should go over Balor.
Oh no, I know. Yeah. You're giving us a reason.
This is why he went over.
Oh no, I agree. I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
And if we want Balor to go heel, there has to be something that triggers the man going heel. He can't just go from being the face on SmackDown, walking out on Raw, and be like, "Right, lads."
Well, I can tell. I've just given you the reason.
Yeah, but but that's my point. That they needed to have something. Maybe this is it. Now, maybe that's just me being an optimist. I'm hoping that that's going to be the case, but something had to happen. And if he came out as King of the Ring, why would he become a heel if he just won King of the Ring? You know, it wouldn't work either in that sense. So hopefully it leads to him turning heel and being able to go on a proper.
I think we're all in agreement on that, aren't we, Ted? In fairness, like we are,
but like
I think it's the best thing that you could do, because you could come out then as the bitter guy, and then we're like behind you anyway. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Do we get on Raw on Monday night? Do we get Balor coming out, the bitter Balor coming out, and he's bitter about the system and about losing to Xavier Woods? And does AJ and Almost come out and go, you know what, we're with you. We're fucking sick of this place. Fuck this Randy Orton. Fuck this, you know, Matt Riddle. Yes. Let's get the band back together again, and let's have this cocky heel faction that are gonna take over Monday Night Raw. And absolute, as the three boys are there, let's end the New Day as they were, you know, and take the belt as well.
I love it.
I think you're getting them coming out smiley anyway for the start of it. The start of Raw, he's coming out smiley, and then it'll be the turn on Woods, you know, come out, shake your hand, well done, you deserved it, and that'll be the turn. I don't know if it'll be AJ and Omos. I think you might see someone from NXT getting called up and him making his own little club. I can't see him and Like if you have him and AJ,
Oh, I
together,
can see him and AJ because they keep doing back and forth on Twitter all the time. I can see.
I can see them wanting it. I can't see Vince wanting it.
Yeah, but
But
don't
that's
forget,
because he's a buffoon.
and you've just told us why Vince gave us Xavier Woods as the king of the ring. Money.
Exactly.
Yeah, the thank you for money. Now, if Vince doesn't see AJ and Finn as money, you know, he's fucking Stevie Wonder.
Yeah.
And imagine after a year or 18 months to turn down the line. Imagine the money in that, like.
In that match. Oh my! I mean, that's a Mania match that doesn't need a belt ever.
Yeah.
You know, that's your fucking Daniel Bryan Omega match. That's the best match that the planet has to offer us.
Let's move on anyway. WWE Championship, Big E champion going in versus Drew McIntyre. For me, I expected a little bit more in this, even though I know Drew was heading off to the blue brand. But
I've done my work here. I'm gone, lads. See you later. Money messing.
I thought with this match, I thought it was solid. I thought they put out a decent match, but it's not something I'd be.
It was a Raw match, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's not something I'll be talking to you next week about. Really.
It was a Raw match. It was. I'm gonna say something quickly just on this. I hate saying it, Niall. You know I don't say this lightly. I think other than Drew's absolute size and his intensity, I think he's overrated personally.
I think in this circle, I think it's a difficult one as well, because I think with Big E, I don't think they've put the machine behind him as a champion, and I don't think they've built him up enough. I think if anything, they've played him down as a champion. He's still.
But I think Big E is good. That's what I'm saying to you.
Well, I think he's good, but I think he has huge potential. But I think what happens is he's still coming out. It's still the pancake thing. It's the positivity. It's all that stuff. And I think when you're WWE champion, I think you have to step into a different kind of realm.
Well, it's Black History Month. Don't forget, they're going to keep running with that for a while, and then they get bored with it.
Yeah, but I mean, even apart from that, you know what I mean? I think in terms of him and in terms of, you know, him being WWE champion, I don't think they're fully behind it in terms of putting him out there as WWE champion. That it's a big deal. And I think,
but that's I agree.
And then you've Drew going into this match, which is billed as you know, one of the main events on Crown Jewel, and we know that Drew's going to the blue brand, and because it's Black History Month or various other things like that, and Big E has credibility. He is.
By the way, shout out to Paul Pogba, what he said. Why do we need a Black History Month? Can we not just have a human month and not kind of make it all separate all the time? Let's all just have a human month. I was like, shout out to Paul Pogba. Just thought it was a great thing to say.
But I think this match, I think it was kind of, as you said, rigged up to be like a Raw kind of weekly title match kind of thing, throwaway really. Darren, any thoughts on
it? Yeah, look, you know, it was grand. It is what it is. I kind of feel like, and it's funny Ian should mention Pogba there, I kind of feel like Big E is almost the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer of the WWE. He's sitting in a seat because there's no one else to take it, you know. I think if Vince and if the creative thought there was a better direction to go, maybe at this point in time, I think they would have ousted him. But I don't think there is, being obviously the month that it is, and you know, he's a merch seller, and they've built him with the Intercontinental Championship and stuff like that. But like, from a legitimate championship point of view and from a legitimate star point of view, he's not a star at the minute. He's really, really not. And I think that has a lot to do with how WWE have failed to push him and failed to make him shine. You know, as you said on Raw a couple of weeks ago, they took a break from his entrance to do the draft as if he was some jobber. Like, here's the Brooklyn Brawler. Oh no, he's actually got the Universal Championship on his. You know what I mean? Like,
I think it's the same with. I thought it was the same with, and look, Niall knows that, like, Drew and myself were pretty close, and as was Niall. We were all good friends. And when I say overrated, I don't mean that in a bad way, but I mean in terms of as the guy, other than the actual size of him, and like, I still don't think I don't believe it. Do you know what I mean? I don't believe it the way I believe in Roman, or the way I believe in Brock, or the way I believe in a Balor or Edge, or.
Yeah, but don't forget Roman. You use Roman as the example there. Roman's right up there with the absolute best in the world. And he's
but don't forget, Roman was for a while wasn't lent that opportunity. But what I'm saying is, I've seen Drew lent that opportunity, and he's been given the reins, no pun intended, to go with his own stuff. And I don't believe it. Do you know what I mean? I think he's a better in-ring worker than say Sheamus.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? This is the example I'm making. Yeah. But I think Sheamus is more in tune with his character than say Drew is, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and Sheamus is also way more in tune with Triple H's asshole as well, though.
You what?
Sheamus is also way more in tune with sniffing Triple H's asshole as well and carrying his bags.
We all know that. We all know that he's not, the best, but we're not talking about that. But Niall, you would agree with that. I think Sheamus is just his character and who the Celtic Warrior is and who he's meant to be. He can be funny, or he can be. And listen,
he invested in that character way before he landed in WWE. Anyway, he was always that Celtic Warrior character. But I think two things I'd probably raise there. There's probably an argument to put forward that Big E was a bigger star before he won the WWE Championship, and that it's kind of diminished slightly since he's won the belt. I think a little
only because of one reason, though, because of what you said, because he's affiliated to the other two. I think.
And the company hasn't done what they should do. What happened was, he's such a likable guy. He's such a great employee. We know the guy is a decent worker and stuff like that. But what happened was, they brought him all the way to the dance. And as Darren said, there was no alternative. They had to follow through on him because he's a likable guy. He's a good guy. He's out there. He's put a shift in. He's been there a while now. They'd already done it with Kofi. Xavier was kind of out here. Maybe they had a plan for this King of the Ring down the road and all that kind of thing, with go up, down, or whatever.
Well, let me ask
Biggie Ted. Was the other guy that was left. But in terms of Drew, I wonder would Drew's stardom be much bigger if he had have had the year that he had as champion, if there had been fans.
Maybe. But the only thing I'm just going to say on the back of your Kofi argument there, Noel, I wanted to ask Ted this, because like, I know, Ted, you can be analytical in your thinking, and I was thinking, if you think about it, like with Big E, should I say, and Balor, right? Can you imagine the proper way to break away the trio of the New Day? Imagine Balor being that little slimy bastardy heel where he starts putting things in Big E's head and be like, you don't need them. Do you know what I mean? You've never needed them. If they do go down that road and they turn Balor that heel and he has his own little group, or even if it's just Balor on his own, just being a nasty little bastard, just planting seeds in and breaking them bit by bit and section by section, and getting a bit of nastiness out of Big E. I think that would be a great way to go. But then again, listen, that's something that in my mind I think makes sense. I don't think they would do that because they think 3-year-olds are the only people.
Because it makes sense.
Yeah.
No, I
don't. You see what I mean by that, though, Ted, right?
No, I do, and I think Niall's right. I think with Big E, they got behind him, gave him the money in the bank, and it started looking like, okay, they're getting behind this guy and he's starting to be built up, and then they gave him the title, and then they were like, right, job done, title's on him. Where are we going next? We go and look at Brock and this, and they were just like, we've got the title on him. We'll come back to him in 2 months, and they haven't put anything behind him. They haven't really done much with him. I think for Drew, it's kind of, they have him as this happy, smiley, happy-go-lucky fella. Look at that lad. That lad's not a happy, smiley, smiling at everyone. Look at him. He's a big, rough, tough Scottish prick. Let him go out there and just be kicking lads' heads off, and he'll get over with that crowd instantly again. Let him go out there and just be nasty. I'm not saying he has to be a heel, but let him be nasty. Like,
he nearly needs to do a Scottish version of Finlay or something, doesn't he?
Yeah, just be nasty.
Yes.
You don't need to be the bad guy. You can still be the face, all of that. But just, you have to have that nasty streak in you if you're going to be that sort of character. For Big E, I think what'll set Big E off for being getting more aggressive won't be Balor getting at him to try and turn him against the New Day. I think it'll just be Balor taking out the two boyos, going out and beating the ever living piss out of Xavier Woods, and then doing it to Kofi the following week. And that's what will trigger Big E. I don't think it'll be mind games and things like that. I think Balor could do that. I think he has the promo skills and stuff to pull off that character, but I don't think he will. I think he'll just go out and he'll just nail the two boys to the wall.
Kind of like what Lashley did.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's what he'll do. But he'll be believable. And this is the thing. This is why you can have someone like Balor lose clean to Xavier Woods, because you let him go out 2 weeks later and let him just kick the piss out of some lad, and you're back to believing that this boy could be a title contender. He has that star quality. Whereas if somebody else kind of loses that match, you're like, nah, put him in the bin, he's done. Balor has that quality where you believe he's still the champion.
Yeah. Let's move on anyway. SmackDown Women's Championship triple threat match. Easily the match of the night, I think. I really enjoyed this one. Just another really, really good match between the three girls.
It's this or the opener for me, I think, as match of the night.
Yeah, I just give it to the opener, but this was super. Really, really was super. And we, again, did we call it in the pre-show? It was going to be between these two for the match of the night. It was going to be between this women's SmackDown championship and the Hell in a Cell. And the girls didn't disappoint. It was excellent. It really was from start to finish. Three great athletes put on an absolutely superb show and really showed those lads in the front row what women can do.
Yeah. And I know it's not a big deal, but it's very strange to see all the women dressed, the full body suits and then the t-shirt over it and the shorts. It's very strange to see them all dressed like that. There's no they still put on quality matches, but it's very.
But we're not a fan of it, Ted.
Yeah, it's just very strange to see that that they have to do that.
Especially not when our Sash is involved. We're not fans of it, Ted. We're not fans of it. Down with that sort of thing.
Yeah. But it's very strange that why is even letting them wrestle on the why are the Saudis happy for them to wrestle, but they're also but you have to be, you don't have to cover your face or anything that we kind of insist on for the women that live over here, but you can't be wearing your normal ring gear, even though we watch you every week and you're wearing it on the telly every other week. You can't do that over here. Sorry about you. But the match itself,
they're probably afraid if the girls go in the gear they're in, there'll be lads painting the bishop off themselves in the first 6 rows, and then we'll have to shut the whole bleeding video down.
Maybe that is it. But nah,
it won't be live on Peacock anymore. Put it that way.
I suppose the only thing that comes out of it really with Becky retaining is she's off to the Red brand, and she's
with the SmackDown title.
SmackDown's women's title, and it's vice versa the other way, isn't it? So it's kind of what way does that work out?
Is it vice versa the other way?
Charlotte's gone with the Raw Championship.
SmackDown, isn't she?
Oh yeah, she is. Yeah. I'd kind of forgotten Charlotte was still a champion, or had won the champion.
That's blasphemy, Ted.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she's she is or isn't the champ. She's always flip flopping between the two, so she can build up those reigns. I always kind of forget which week she is the champion and which week she's not, sort of thing. Yeah, they'll just switch it and it'll now be Charlotte's the SmackDown. They'll swap belts or something. I don't know.
No, they can't just swap belts. That wouldn't be like WWE to let them just swap belts in the locker room, Ted.
They'll bump into each other in the hallway and the two belts will fall on the floor and then they'll each pick up the wrong one and we'll just continue on our way, won't we?
We like Turnbuckle Gate. We forget it ever happened.
Yeah. No, I think the ending to this match was great. I thought it was very, very smart. Have Becky get hit with the KOD and then the two of them kind of scrambling about who'd get the pin. And then when they finally got in, Becky rolls them up and grabs the bottom rope with it. Thought it was a very smart finish. Kept everyone looking strong and let Becky walk out as the champ still.
I thought Becky's promo as well with Kevin, I thought was really, really good.
Yeah.
I thought she's just really, really cool. I like this whole.
By the way, for me and Darren, shout out to Kevin for the last few days, giving us props on the old Instagram. We can't show it around, but shout out to Kevin.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's move on. Universal Championship match: Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar. I
wanted more.
Yeah, I kind of.
Yeah, everyone did.
I enjoyed it, but I kind of expected a lot more, or I expected a bit more layering to it. I thought the build up to it was really, really good. I thought that the the signings and the way Lesnar was just out and Heyman as the snake and all this kind of thing and all. So I thought the build up was really cool to it. But I came out of it thinking I don't really want to see this again at a WrestleMania.
Is it just me, or is Brock Lesnar trimmed down, or has Roman got to his size?
No. Brock is trimmed down massively.
Not that he looks bad. Not that he looks bad.
No, he looked great. He was great. In super Nick.
Like he looked like fighting Nick, like he was ready for a UFC fight, like
which may be the case.
Yeah.
No, you know,
never know with that guy.
I actually think he's probably gone past the point of UFC, because if you look at a lot of his UFC bouts, he was big and bulky, whereas today he looked shredded at times in that ring, which we haven't seen in quite some time, maybe since his very, very early days. But he looked terrific.
I've heard through the grapevine, lads, that we're going to see a lot more Brock in this new contract than we have done in previous years as well. And I wonder if that's something to do with it.
I think he's fallen in love with this storyline of, you know, the Heyman in the middle of him and Roman. And I get where you're coming from, Niall, that I don't think this delivered all that much. But I think the reason for that is, let's be like, Crown Jewel isn't real, you know, like that. This is a nice little spin-off show, and you get
it's a raw with the bells and whistles, isn't it?
It's really? Not even that, because, like, you know, the way WWE look at it is Crown Jewel is just, that's over there, that's a spin-off show. It's not leading to any of the other stuff. Like, that just kind of happened over there, and we can kind of forget about it if we need to. Don't worry about that. Yeah. Whereas
yeah, no, he's right.
They want to keep the actual meat and bones of this feud, because this is a real feud. Like, other than Edge and Rollins,
and Balor and
other than Edge and Rollins, there was no actual feud coming into this other than Brock and Reigns, was there?
Oh, like, I know what you mean. Coming into it. Sorry,
Goldberg and Lashley, but sure, that was just, you know, they were going to give Goldberg
the girls as well, though. The girls as well.
Yeah, but they kind of, like, they booked themselves out of that by keeping everyone looking strong, sort of thing on that. You know what I mean? This is the only one where they didn't want to give away anything, because they were like, we need to keep this for, you know, for our own big shows, not for the fucking Saudis.
To be fair, they do that every week, yeah.
So I think they kept this, and they kept it, you know, very short, and, you know, Heyman just slid the title in between the two of them. And they're like, that keeps that interest going, and that'll do enough for the Saudis to get us out of here, and they'll be happy with that, and we can continue this feud. Like, this feud is not over. So no. I get what you were saying, Niall, that you weren't overly interested in it, and you're this show kind of soured the feud a little bit. But I think you just have to kind of pretend this show didn't happen. I think
the intrigue that they placed with Heyman throwing the belt in, saying take it. I think that's what leaves it open. You know,
I think that's all that this show was just to get Heyman to do that, because they didn't want to give away anything else. I think this is basically just a little smackdown in the middle of this, getting to the next pay-per-view. This is their big blow-off match eventually. So I'm still interested to see where this goes, because this is.
And even Uncle Jim Cornette even said, like, he was liking, you know, the likes of Brock doing his own promos and stuff at the moment.
Dynamic of it, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. You know what I mean? And I think maybe Brock has kind of went, you know what, this could be for me. On like I could be here every couple of weeks doing this. So yeah, I think that's a positive to come out of this Crown Jewel. And I think the only other positive is that if Darren and myself's prediction comes true for our very own Shamrock man, not Ken, comes out literally smelling the roses after this, because I tell you here now, if there's nothing for that man on Raw in the next 2 weeks, you know, I'm already on the trigger, but I'm almost 100% fully invested in Mr. Khan. Announcement to be made soon for the Dynamo Podcast Network, by the way.
Well, gents, as always, it's been a pleasure reviewing Crown Jewel. Or at least most.
It wasn't a pleasure at all.
Well, look, we cheered you up somewhat, didn't we?
Just by your presence, gents. Nothing to do with yous. You were all beautiful.
That's why it's always on Spotify. But as always, videos on Dynamo Podcast Network, audio's on Spotify. And if you want to hit us up, you'll get us at Podmen on Twitter or the 4Podmen on Facebook. Till next time, gents, a pleasure.
Look.
Saudi Arabia 2021.